What you're hearing is my air compressor. That's as loud as it gets. It's specially designed to cool the air, condenses it, gets rid of all the moisture out of it, so it doesn't blow air onto your parts or your air gun or whatever you're using. And it can run for days, weeks, years without shutting off and without blowing up. A piston air compressor makes lots of noise and won't do that. So we did a little test. I bought that air compressor just to be able to blow things out like gas tanks. This here was cleaned with Stoddards and then went over with Gibbs just by hand. And what you're seeing is the primer underneath the paint. A lot of this paint, because it wasn't waxed, is oxidized, which I've discussed in other videos, down to the base primer, the gray primer. If this was a brown primer, you'd be seeing brown underneath. This is the black, gray, whatever you want to call it, primer. There's different patches. So that's the frame I got. That's the frame it came with, unless I magic up a new old stock 38 frame with the right hallmarks. That's the frame it's going to go back together with. So anything's possible, and the bike's not back together yet. But until that happens, this is the frame we're going to use, so we got to clean it. So my plan at this time is to get a what do you call it, a hot tub that I can fit this in, because it has jets, you follow? And of course the Stoddard's going to go down into the frame tubes. But Stoddard is a chemical that doesn't continue, it's not an acid, it has a different chemical makeup. And I can put an air line into here on the frame, and in here leave it on permanently until it's all dry. And that air compressor can run for a few days and just get it all out. And it won't have a problem. That's the danger of frame immersion. What do you do if the chemical gets inside the frame? Because it's going to happen. How do you get rid of it? It can't be a chemical that continues to run and bleed. I got the same problem with the forks. So how do I do that? And that's how we're going to do it. So that's that. That is the plan, unless I develop another plan. So the problem is, if I do this by hand, first off, you're not going to get it all, and second off, you're going to scratch it. We want to get rid of it without damaging the paint. This still has lovely paint on the front down tubes, at least on this down tube. The back's gone, but at least that section's pretty good. And what about the forks? I don't want to scratch that up. I don't want to ruin that paint. So that is the plan, unless I magic up a better plan. But I've been thinking how and what and why and what to do and what to use the last several years, and that's the best I've been able to come up with. So far, this has not hurt paint at all. So Gibbs is not abrasive enough. So I was thinking about getting a big vat of Gibbs. But if I dry that and then I coat it with Gibbs, which is what I did, Gibbs will flash into the frame still, into the metal, and it actually helps hold the paint on, whereas WD-40 helps pull the paint away. So don't use WD-40 on your original paint stuff. I've seen it literally 5 years later. Well, what happened to your original paint bike? Oh, I put WD-40 in it. Paint's gone. Whoops. And Gibbs don't do that. So that is the update. That is the news. Comments are welcome and suggestions, but that's the best I got. Here's an up close, and I think it's going to look beautiful. Bye-bye.